Do you call yourself Solita or do you pronounce it differently?
That's correct. Solita is correct.
Lolita? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I just want to
Solita.
make sure because maybe I assumed, but shouldn't assume.
Yeah, I was just having this conversation recently, like on a LinkedIn live about people and, our names.
Yeah.
And sometimes when someone has a difficulty in pronouncing our names, we go, oh, you can call me this instead. It's like,
Yeah.
no,
No.
is it like you asked? Is it,
Yeah.
for me, I assumed it's Connie, but maybe pronounced differently. Is that how you pronounce your name?
Yeah. No, it's Connie. But it's written with a Y, and most people ignore that. And I find so I always have to be careful to not be offended because I don't think people do it in an offensive way, but it's
Yeah.
this like, oh, in North America we write it with IE, so
Oh,
I just
yeah.
write IE,
Yeah.
and I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I feel like the name is something important to somebody. So we're
Yes.
making sure we're pronouncing it right, we're making sure we're writing it right.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I
Yeah.
I feel
Don't,
that's
no, exactly. Not when and I think that's where as individuals, we have to be mindful. Like, you don't dismiss when I say to you, like, my name is Solita. It is spelled Solita.
yeah.
And you're like, well, in such and such, that's not how it's like,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah,
you're not
exactly.
in such and such. You're talking to me, and I'm
Yes.
telling you how my name, the name that I used to identify myself with, is
Exactly.
pronounced and being spelled. I appreciate you sharing your backstory. However, can we get to you pronouncing and spelling my name correctly? And I
Yeah.
think that's where, like, with everything, we have to be mindful and take people as they are, as and how they're telling you to address them, not your perception of what it is.
Yeah.
Like that's no, we're not doing that anymore. We
Yeah.
allowing people to tell us who they are and be mindful and respectful of that. Don't be telling me what you think my name should. If you tell me what it means, I'm totally fine with that. Like, persons to say, oh, do you know what your name means? I'm like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine. Like, because that's, the meaning can change from
Mm-hmm.
depending on different cultures. And I'm totally fine with that, but do not tell me how to spell or pronounce my name. Like,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think this is it's literally kind of like the topic we're talking about today,
yes.
also
Yeah.
with style and with clothes. But let's go back a little bit. I want to know because I was really looking forward to this conversation. But what I want to know is did Solita always know she wanted to become a stylist, or
Oh no,
how did that happen?
absolutely not. Young Solita actually wanted to be a lawyer, so I wanted to study law, and primarily in family law, or corporate, but more so family law because of my upbringing and how I saw as a child. Like, if you decide to be a parent, there are certain responsibilities that you have. And if you're not living up to those expectations as a parent, I think it's important for a child to be able to advocate for themselves, to say, okay, this environment that I'm in is not conducive for me, and I'm not and have a voice. That was the thing. It's like, how can we have adults outside of the family spectrum speak for kids and have that interest in kids? So that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a lawyer. Went to college, and I did 2 years of law there, because in the Caribbean, so I just kind of like back up. I was born in the Republic of Guyana, spent some of my junior years there, and then migrated to Antigua and Barbuda. And that's where I think I've developed more of who I am today. Even
Mhm.
though I was born in Guyana, I do have knowledge and experiences there. I think Antigua is what crafted me and shaped me into the person that I am today. So when I finished high school in Antigua, we have a 2 year college because I couldn't go to the 4 year colleges like everyone else, because that meant that you had to migrate. You had to, leave Antigua and to maybe travel to the States or somewhere else to go to school. So I went to the local college. It was a 2 year college. And so I studied law because, again, I wanted to be a lawyer. But life happened after I finished, I graduated, and it's like at that point I needed to find a job. I needed to find something that was going to help me to get to law school. That was the goal. I was going to work for 5 years and go to law school, because we do have the University of the West Indies, and there's like a legal, there's a pathway to becoming a lawyer there. And so I was going to do like, part-time student, but life happened. And so I went into banking.
Mm-hmm.
Law and banking, two different fields. So working in banking, I just kind of like spent most of my like 15 years in banking. Never got back to that passion of, okay, I wanted to, become a lawyer. I think I kind of just never thought about it anymore. And my mom was like, you always wanted to be a lawyer. Why don't you go and study that? And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'll be a good student anymore. I don't think I'll be a good student anymore now that, I've worked for so many years, and my perception and mindset and the way I advocate, it wasn't like I didn't need a legal degree to advocate for, people, advocate for kids,
Yeah.
advocate for women. It just meant that I needed to own my voice and speak up whenever I saw something that I didn't think was right or unjust. And so when I was going through, I think it was like in my 13th or 14th year in banking, I was going through that phase like, okay, I no longer want to do this. Yes, this is a very long story
That's
as to
fine.
how I got
No
to
problem.
become an image coach. So, being in that phase where I was trying to figure out what is it I wanted to do? What is my next step? What does life look like for me? Since I've had so many changes and different pathways that I've gone on, it's like, what do I do? And so personal styling was that outlet that I was like, okay, maybe I have a creative side. I can't draw, I can't color, I can't sing, I can't sew. So those are the things that I thought were creative. And so when I found personal styling, it's like it was an outlet for me to discover myself and for me to just try and find that avenue to creativity. Long story short, when I migrated to, again, I am a seasoned immigrant, as I like to say. So this is my third time that I've migrated from Antigua to the US, going through that phase of self-discovery, going through that phase of where sending out applications, because I thought, again, I needed to get a job because I need to be able to provide and do everything that I need for myself. And I was getting like so many no's, just like the basic job that I was applying for and getting a no, it literally crushed my spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, what do I do now? I can't sit on my couch and I don't know anyone here. So what do I do? And I tapped into how can I make personal styling and image coaching a business. And it's like, I started as first as having something to do, to have a structure and have like my clear my mind and work on my mental space where like, okay, I have something to do. And it just kind of like moved into that, okay, this can become a thing, in that not only did it bring me fulfillment and it helped me at a time when I really needed something to focus on. And so, yeah, I'm going to cry. And so, yeah, it just kind of like changed into that thing where I realized that how it impacts me, not only in giving me purpose and meaning to my life and what I call creating my own yes, but in working with my clients and going through, helping them through the transitions that they would have gone through in life as well. Like they're going through in life where they're trying to rediscover themselves, redefine themselves, and they found like they were hiding and kind of like lack confidence in who they are. I realized that there is power to it. There is purpose to working on yourself from the inside and making sure that when you show up on the outside, everything that you're feeling and that you want to be is you're being able to express that on the outside. So that is how the long version of how I got to become an image coach. So I appreciate you asking, Connie. Thank you.
Oh, I'm so glad I asked because I think it's an amazing story. It's literally an amazing story. It's like, um, so for me, it's always really interesting where the people come from or what they originally thought they wanted to
Yeah.
be, and then how they end up where they are. And there's so much wisdom also in it,
Yeah.
and I feel like without this journey of you first studying law, then being in banking, then and all this immigration, um, you wouldn't be the same Solita
Yes, yes,
helping your clients
yeah,
as you are now. No, so
yeah,
this is why I love hearing these stories, because it's a different story whether you go that was a little bit funny. It's a different thing whether you go to somebody that helps you out with something so personal like clothes,
yeah,
to kind of know that she either also went through immigrating, or maybe she also used to work in corporate, now she doesn't, or maybe she
yeah,
still works in corporate
yeah,
but wants to break out of this uniform thing that we sometimes think
absolutely.
like we have to do, and wants to become a little bit more free, but also doesn't want to just show up like and have this friction constantly because
Yeah.
everybody, yeah. So I'm so glad I asked because it was
Yeah,
an
it is
amazing
that
story.
for me, it's like we all go through different changes and transitions in our lives, right? And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I've realized with some of the clients that I work with, because life is an ebbs and flows and things change constantly, we change as well.
Yeah.
And if our wardrobe doesn't change with us,
Mm-hmm.
we then, tend to feel stuck. Because if you're stuck in what should you do next? What is your purpose? What's your passion? And you're also stuck in when you go to your wardrobe and you're looking at it and nothing helps you to become or envision that person that you want to be, then ultimately you are stuck. So to be unstuck, to get yourself unstuck, you have to go through that process of saying, okay, this is my journey, this is my path, these are some of the things that I've experienced. How has this changed me? Right? And
Mm-hmm.
now who do I want to become? Who do I
Yeah.
want to serve? Who do I want in my space? What do I want to do? And so when you go through that self-discovery process, you realize that, okay, yes, there was a point in my life when I worked in corporate and I may have had a corporate wardrobe, but I've changed. I'm no
Mm-hmm.
longer that person. I'm no longer putting myself in that box, because sometimes in corporate, when it comes to your parents and what you can wear, you're placed into this box. But
Yeah.
now you're saying to yourself, I want to be free. I
Yeah.
want to live a life of freedom. I want to live a life where I can express more of myself. And so your wardrobe needs to align with that change that you're going through. So it's not, most women think it's as simple as, oh yeah, clothes, because we're never actually been taught how to dress, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the importance of getting dressed. Most of the times when you think about, an individual that pay attention to what they wear and how they express themselves, we're like, oh, you're being too much. You're being extra. It's like, no, they're not being extra.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a way of them expressing themselves, because the
Mm-hmm.
clothes that you wear is so much more than just you going into a store and buying clothes. It's like, how do you want to express yourself? What do
Yeah.
you want to say about yourself? What is the story? I mean, I'm sure if I asked you right now, I know we're not going to be doing like a video portion of this podcast and we're doing the audio,
Yeah,
but
no,
for
we do
those
video
listening,
too. We
oh,
can
we
do
are,
video
oh,
too.
that's
Yeah,
fantastic.
talk with pictures.
Because here's the thing, you're wearing a pretty necklace right now. There's a story behind that.
Yep,
What
there
is the
is.
story behind that?
So the immediate story is that I actually sat here, looked at myself at this in the camera, and thought there's something missing. So I ran away from my desk to go get it, and I actually came with a different one first that didn't fit. And
Yeah.
then I came with this one. And this one, yeah, it's one that I have at least for 25, maybe even more years. It was originally one that my mother bought somewhere on vacation, don't know where anymore, for herself. And then when she died, I found it again, and she wasn't really wearing it, but I always loved it. It has purple in it, it is light. Yeah, so it has a long story.
So do you realize that for someone looking at you, the perception, oh, you're just wearing a necklace. But
Mm,
for you, there's a story behind why
yes.
you're wearing it. You're connected to that story. So every time you wear it, I mean, just looking at you, you're talking about it, you're touching it, you're
Yeah, exactly.
smiling, you because it brings something to you. There's a meaning and a purpose
Yeah.
and a really deeper meaning behind what it is. So when we think about the clothes that we wear, when we think about, okay, we're going into a store and buying something or someone gives us something, there's a story behind it. It's supposed to make you feel exactly what you were feeling just now and have that same connection. Because when I'm connecting with you for the first time, I
Mm-hmm.
want to know the story behind that. I
Yeah.
want to know, because everything that you're wearing, how you're presenting yourself, is telling me a story about you.
Yeah.
And it gives you the opportunity to share what that story is, right? So don't, for everyone listening, don't think that the clothes that you're wearing is just, oh, I'm just wearing a shirt. If you're just wearing a shirt, it means that, and you're thinking that's what you're wearing, you have to go through that process of aligning. Okay, why am I wearing this? Am I
Yeah.
just wearing this shirt because I think, one, we have to wear clothes, we're not living in a nudist colony, we have to wear clothes. So are you just wearing clothes to go through your day, or are you really aligning how you're presenting yourself with the opportunities that you're seeking, with how you want to communicate who you are? Because I'm of the opinion everything starts with you. We've heard the perception is, no, oh, wear clothes so that you can impress people. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
no, I don't use that statement. I said, wear clothes so you can influence people and start conversations, because that's what you want. You want to feel great about yourself and
Mm-hmm.
also engage in conversations with people so that you can get those connections and opportunities that you're looking for. So
Mm-hmm.
it is more than clothes.
It's
And
definitely
that
more
simple
than.
demonstration of your story on the bracelet shows that, on your necklace, sorry, it tells that there is more to everything that we have on us.
Yeah, totally. So we could run into all kinds of different directions from here. My brain is just firing.
Oh,
But so first, I want to say, so we are, like you said, we're never really taught how to dress, but then we are, but just more indirectly, like by our
yes.
environment. So, and for example, when I was growing up in Switzerland, and this is not to blame my parents or anything, but it was always like, oh, you can't wear that, what would the neighbors think, you know? It's
Yes.
like I remember when jeans jackets became famous and in fashion, and I wanted one, and my mother, there's no way my daughter wears a jeans jacket, you know. and
Yeah.
and I was old enough to buy it with my pocket money, and she was so angry at me, and it's like, as and it was even a beautiful one, it was not one that looked like a rocker jacket or
Yeah.
but oh my god. And so you are taught in a way what to dress, how to dress, and then you work in corporate. I worked in corporate too, so there is an unsaid kind of
Yeah.
code how to dress, or you sometimes, when you're really not in line with that, get pointed out that you shouldn't show
Yeah.
up like this. No. So we are kind of taught, and how do we even break out of this? Like, because I still catch myself sometimes the thought, oh, what would other people think if I would wear this? Because I feel like,
Yes.
oh, this is beautiful, I love this, I want to wear this, and then what would people think? So how do you break out
Ye-
of this?
Oh no, this is all, these are like, that's a great question. And also the examples and stories that you just share is exactly what happens with us every single day of our lives, right? And as you said, we weren't taught how to dress, but we weren't taught how to dress our authentic selves. We
Mm-hmm.
were taught how to dress so that we don't embarrass someone, so that we can fit into the crowd by looking like everyone else. And it's like, no, right? And
Mm.
people pleasing, like, I have clients that I've worked with to this day, and I work with women 30 and over. It's like, yeah, my mom said that I shouldn't wear pink how
Yeah.
many years ago, and they still do that because,
Yeah.
again, learned behaviors and things that we were told constantly, and we tend to believe it about ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing that I do when I'm working with my clients, that we go through that process of self discovery. How can we remove everything that we were told before? So we're unlearning every single thing that we were told when it comes to our appearance, when it comes to what we can and cannot wear or should and should not wear. Because you are your own person now. You are your own person.
Yeah.
You identify differently. You feel differently. You love and embrace different things. So what you're wearing should express you. It shouldn't be a reflection of, oh, but I remember when I was 10, my mom said not to wear skirts above my knee.
Mm.
And so you're not doing it. Like as an adult, you're like, no. But because it's, if you realize, it's everything that we do becomes, especially repeat actions, we do it without thinking. And if we take a moment to like really think about why we wear the things that we wear, and how can we, and is it in alignment with who we are? I'm gonna give you an example. So I attended all girls Catholic school, and you could not wear your uniform. So we had in Antigua, we have uniforms, like school uniform. You don't just wear random clothes. You have a uniform that's associated with that school. And your jumper, which is like it was like a dress, could not fall above your knee. If your jumper was slightly above your knee, we call him Fada. I'm not gonna call him like his real name, but I'm just gonna say like Fada Smith would walk around with a scissors and cut your hem. And at that time, it was like that's the rule of the school.
Mm-hmm.
You disobeyed the rules, and no one made a stink or said anything about it when he literally will come up to you and cut your hem because you are not wearing the appropriate, you're not reaching the dress code. And so I realized I did two things. I'm always that person who like, that don't make no sense, but because I'm in the environment as a child, I have to follow the rules, no problem. When I got to college, we had uniforms there again, and they had the requirements again. Make sure your skirt is not above your knee. Make sure this and this and this. And I was like, no, I don't want to look like that. I don't want to be in college where I'm developing the skills to go out into the world and be an adult. And you're telling me, first of all, I'm wearing a uniform, really, in college. And then, second of all, you have all these different requirements and restrictions that we have to obey and abide by. And I was like, I don't want that. And my mom was the one that sewed my uniform. So we weren't that privileged to buy clothing. My mom will sew, but that's what my mom used to do as well. So when my mom was sewing my uniform, I was like, um, she made it to the requirements. I was like, nope, can we pull the hem up just a little bit? Like I needed a little bit above my knee, right? So there are women like me who are going to say, okay, yes, there are the rules on the boxes that you want me to abide by and stipulate, and I need to follow. But how can I express a little bit more of myself? How can I quote unquote break the rules a little bit, but at the
Mm-hmm.
same time go by the rules? And so you'll pull your hem up a little. There was no one walking around, looking at my hem and policing it in college. So it was like, yeah, I can do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the flip side, there are women now who, because of that, I'm going to call it trauma, because if you think about it, it is
Mm-hmm.
somewhat traumatic for that to happen. Because when you in school was over and you have to walk down and everybody sees you, everybody knew what happened to you when they saw your head down. So for someone like that, may be traumatic. So they never, ever step out the box, never,
Yeah.
ever wear anything above the knee, because you don't want to feel that like you broke the rules and you're
Yeah.
not doing things right. So it's going through that process. If you find yourself at that crossroad where you are in that self-discovery phase, where you want to adopt more of and express more of who you are because you're tired of fitting into a box, right? And right now, we should allow everyone to express their individual personalities.
Mm-hmm.
And it may not look like what you're accustomed to, because what is the norm? The
Yeah.
norm was something, especially for women, that was given to us. We were told, oh, as women you need to dress this way, as women you can't do this or you can't do that. We're not doing that anymore, right? We have a voice and we have a position in society, and it's for us to then decide what does that look like for us. And if it doesn't look like, or you're the only one that looks like that, it's okay, right? It's for you to be, once you are confident in who you are, the discomfort that the other person is feeling, it's simply coming from the fact that, one, they may not be confident in themselves, and two, they are using some old way of school of thumb or law to measure you by. And it's like, I'm just trying to be me. I'm
Yeah.
just trying to embrace me and be who I am. So that's the first place to start. That self-discovery, and see if the things that you're doing is actually in fact aligned with who you are, or are you doing them as a result of old school ways that you were taught, especially as women, right? We have to
Mm-hmm.
shed some of that societal norms for us to step into our power, for us to feel confident and embrace who we are. Because when we step into those rooms that we're trying to get into right now, majority of those rooms are going to have men in there. Majority of the times we're going to be the only one. And how do we make our presence known without trying to shrink or trying to conform to what we think is the acceptable way for us to show up, when in truth and in fact the only acceptable way for you to show up is as yourself.
Yeah, yeah. This is, we did come already a little bit towards what you're talking about, because I remember when I was in the corporate world, a lot of things were said, oh, you can't wear that because nobody would take you serious, and as a
Yeah,
woman you have to anyways work double hard, and then
yeah,
you have to dress, otherwise they, if you dress wrong, like, and wrong in air quotes, then
yeah.
they're not taking you serious to begin with. No matter what you say or how qualified you are. And I think we came a little bit, but we're still not really there.
Oh
And
no.
one sentence that I want to address here real quick is too, because I saw that on your website. You're saying too that um, the intersection between gender, race, and image, because showing up authentically in the workplace could trigger like, and you were talking about this somewhere, I forgot where, that because we're expressing ourselves differently as women, or we want to, or different cultures, that when we are letting people show up authentically, and we women have to let other women do that too, because we're
Yes.
sometimes our worst enemy, then we're creating also an inclusive workspace, which is so important, which we all want, and only then we can actually um, kind of like get rid of these old views from these old
Exactly.
white men, to say it
Exactly,
really
right. It's
mean.
and that's a very important point that you made, in terms of women allowing other women
Yeah.
to be themselves. We cannot police other women, because we are then being policed by a society that's not allowing us to be ourselves. And
Yeah.
so for me, it is very disheartening when I see another woman telling another woman, don't do this, don't show up this way, because that's something that you are still trying to work through yourself. And to the point that you made, I remember, like, I made a post and I was talking about, like, one of my LinkedIn. That's where, like, I spend most of my time in social media. And I was talking about, presenting yourself and being authentic, and the things that you wear, and really embracing, allowing persons to embrace their authentic selves, right? We're
Mm-hmm.
all not going to look the same, even though we may have the same cultural, we may identify the same way. Our individual personalities are different, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
we have to allow persons to show up. And when we think about race as well, when it comes to appearance, and what we wear, our upbringing are totally different. Our things that we're exposed to are totally different. So you're going to see someone, like a Black woman is going to dress completely different from a woman from Europe, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not saying, oh yeah, I'm from Europe and this is the best way that you should dress. It's like, no, your upbringing and what you were culturally exposed to is different from what I was culturally exposed to.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a woman comment, and she's like, oh, I don't like to see women when they're wearing dresses and then you can see, like, the bottom of their butt, like, the dress is fitted to their body. And I'm not talking, we were talking corporate wear. And so I did not imagine this being a dress that you would wear to the club. I imagine this is a corporate dress, but
Mm-hmm.
it's fitted to the individual body. And so I asked the question, like, how does this relate to a Black woman and a
Mm-hmm.
Black woman's body? Because what I gathered and what I saw, that she was using the example of the woman that she was referring to. It's a white woman who does not have a Black woman's body,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the dress will not fit a Black woman's body the same way it would a white woman's body.
Yeah.
And so when we have these rule of thumb, like this is exactly how your clothing should fit you, you have to take into consideration how it's going to fit every race and every body type.
Mm-hmm.
So a Black woman showing up in that dress, where, I mean, a Black woman's body is a Black woman's body. That's what we have. And her butt is there. What do you want her to do with her butt? So
Mm-hmm.
now you are, in a way, looking and passing judgment on something that is part of her. And so if maybe you made a comment, again, you shouldn't, but maybe you made a comment. Now that woman now feels as though, okay, I'm not dressing appropriately. Even
Mm-hmm.
though she's dressed,
Yeah.
when you look at her, she's dressed for the work environment,
Yeah.
look very professional, but the dress is not fitting her body
Mm-hmm.
according to your standard of how it should look.
Yeah.
So it's like we have to, when I talk about inclusive and talk about looking at the intersection between race, gender, and identity, that's what I mean. It's like
Mm-hmm.
taking away your way of seeing things as an
Mm-hmm.
individual and expand it to every race,
Yes.
expand it to every gender, expand it and see how can I reshape my mindset, because that's what it is. I'm sorry, we have to, as individuals, reshape our mindset as to how we view things, right? And
Yeah.
so this is why when a Black woman shows up into a workplace and someone is making a comment on her hair, someone is making a comment on, the color that she wears, that sometimes, Black women feel as though we need to shrink, we need to hide, because it's like, how can I be myself? Because I am an individual. I am a different race. I am totally different from you, but you're using the Western, that mold of what it looks like to be professional and to look professional, to judge me by. And that is something that as individuals, we have to change. And we
Yeah.
have to say in ourselves, how am I being fair to this person? How am I judging this person based on their expertise and not my perception of how they should look and appear based on what I was told is normal or is
Yeah.
professional. And like
Yeah.
that for me, it's the work that I try to work on every day, is making sure that women of color understand that to be themselves, it's okay to be yourself, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's okay that when you step into these rooms, that you are going to be in some cases the only one and the other. And so when someone is casting their judgment on you, know that that person needs to redefine, okay, what does it mean to have an inclusive workplace? What does it mean to have multicultural people within a space? And know that, okay, my discomfort is not that you are unprofessional. My discomfort is coming from the fact that I am not open or comfortable with knowing that I am not the definition of what professional looks like, or I'm not the definition of how someone should show up. Like,
Yeah.
don't use yourself as the yardstick to measure how someone should show up.
Yeah. And I sometimes wonder where these people take that impression that they're allowed to policing other people that way. And you just mentioned the hair very very shortly, but it reminded me of a post I saw about I didn't follow the thread, but there was some discussion about how the hair of a black woman is so different and that she has to go through so much extra effort to show up in a way that is so-called appropriate in our world. And I find this is so crazy. We're in 2022. It should not matter whether the hair of a black woman or the hair of a Asian woman or the hair of a white woman is not appropriate to whatever somebody at some point, probably 100 years ago,
It
decided
is.
is.
I mean, we are going into a topic of when we talk about when the black women, and here we know that as black women, as black people, the injustices that we face, it's to be frank, it's coming from racism and
Yeah,
slavery, right?
yeah.
And us being different, I put that in air quotes because
Mm-hmm.
if you look around, there's no other race that you can look at us and say, okay, we look similar to that race, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every other race does have some similarities in
Mm-hmm.
terms of, okay, maybe the hair texture, because look at an Asian person and compare that person to someone from Western Europe or somewhere, like they may have straight hair, right? Whereas a black person, our hair as a group, as a race, within the race have different textures, but
Mm-hmm.
there is no one else that looks like and that
Mm-hmm.
we can say, oh, we look like similar to. And so when we think about a black woman and here, it's like, how can you ask me to make my hair look like yours?
Yeah, when it's
Like
not
that
possible.
is not possible. And so
Mm-hmm.
you find what happened, because we were told to look professional, a lot of us try to, quote unquote, because the look of professional was the white woman with the straight hair or the white man with the straight hair. And so our hair it doesn't grow out of our heads straight because we are a different
Yeah.
race, a completely different race. And so you found that, to fit in, to have that professional look, black women, we sat down on a Sunday and our parents or guardians were like straightening our hair because that was the look to be perceived as professional. And
Mm-hmm.
so you're walking with your natural hair that's growing out of your head and you're told, oh, you need to do something with
Yeah.
that. Oh, you need to, that's not professional. And, there are black women on a daily that experience this. Yes, we have the Crown Act that was recently passed here in the US, which is good. I celebrate that, right? And I see so many black women now, especially in the space of LinkedIn, where I'm seeing them saying, showing up in their natural hair and taking their headshots for corporate looks. And it's so rewarding and so great to
Mm-hmm.
see. But there are still, places in the world that sees us in our naturalness as not being the ideal look of what professional is. And
Yeah.
there's still so much work to do. I remember my hairdresser left. And so, because I was on that journey too, because we all, we perm our hair to make it straight. And my hairdresser left after 10 years. And so I couldn't find a hairdresser. And I went into her assistant at the time who had taken over her business. I'm like, cut it all off, right? Like, can you just cut it all off? And then so I completely, like, I went bald, like really low. And even that for a black woman is like, how can you cut your hair off? Like, that's a big thing. That's like, no, you don't
Mm-hmm.
do that because, that's not professional. There's like, there's so
Yeah.
many vacuums that we're placed into. And so I remember when my hair was growing out, it was still in its very, very natural state. And a coworker looked at me and she was like, what did your boss say about your hair being natural? Because I was quote unquote in the front office. I saw the
Mm-hmm.
clients and I'm like, I don't get it. What do you mean?
Yeah.
Right. And I like to be that person in the room where I want you to let's process this together. Because maybe you don't understand what you're saying to me is wrong, and maybe you don't understand that you should not say this. So let's process it together. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like I don't understand. Are you saying the hair that's growing out of my head in its natural state, there's a problem with that? She's like, well, they've always had this image of the girls working in the office and they wear like weave and straight hairs. I'm like, I don't understand.
Mm.
Can you explain to me what is wrong with my hair? Because
Mm-hmm.
I don't get what is wrong with the hair that
Yeah.
is going out of my head. Right. So, I mean, we can talk a lot on this. And I
Yeah.
know because it's a struggle that Black women are trying to show up as themselves. I mean, I don't know if you follow or any of your listeners have ever encountered Bozoma St. John. Like, she is this Black woman in the US has done like really amazing work when it comes to marketing and when it comes to like showing up as your authentic self. And she is by far, when you look at her, not a definition of what that professional looks like. Like, she will show up and she'll tell you she loves sequins, she loves bright colors, she loves her nails, she loves big hair. And when you see her, she's like, this is me, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing about this that is wrong. Like, you are getting the authentic version of me. I'm not going to put on a mask and pretend to be something else that I'm not, right? And I think she's just such a great example of being authentic. Now, everyone is not going to be that personality. And this is where I say it comes down to, when you think about your image and thinking about what you should wear, it comes down to your personality, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
being unapologetic about
Yeah.
that and who you are. In that, like, yeah, you may not love the big hair and the bright colors. What do you love? What
Mm-hmm.
can you wear to express yourself? And if Solita, who's wearing the pink shirt with the pink nails, shows up in your space, do not look at me like, oh, you're being loud. Oh, you're being extra. It's like, no, I'm being myself.
Mm-hmm. And I love it. Pink looks awesome on you. You had that on last time already. You
Yeah.
were in pink, and I literally,
Yes.
I mean, you're shining in pink. So,
Yes.
but then we talked a lot about how other people perceive us and maybe judge us and how that is wrong, but I'm assuming there is also mistakes that we could make that could ruin our image, that we can't blame on other people or society or old white
No.
men and whatever. So can you maybe share some examples or some tips what we should really not do if we want to not ruin our image?
Yeah, and that's an interesting question that you asked, because it's in a way, when we think about our image, it's about a reflection of us and a reflection of how we think the world wants to see us and how we should show up. So I mean, I don't want to use the word like ruin your image. It's more of, how can you embrace more of your authentic self? How can you embrace more of who you are? And what is it you are doing that is not allowing you to embrace your authentic self? And it comes back to some of the internal things that we would have gone through as individuals and how we internalize things. And
Mm-hmm.
that, we want to please everyone. We want to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that we're being liked. We want to make sure that, we're not offending anyone. And that's the first thing that you have to do. Let go of trying
Can't
to.
do that anyways. No, there's always somebody that you're offending or not pleasing
Exactly.
or
Exactly. So why not show up as your authentic self, right? And being, yes, you have to dress appropriately for the environments that you're going, and the appropriateness of the environments and making sure that you dress appropriate is just knowing that, okay, you are not going to wear a bikini into a corporate space, right? That is the
better not.
appropriateness of, right? That's when I think of appropriateness of it, is what I'm talking about. But we have to be in that space where we are comfortable with who we are,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
comfortable in who you are. You are not passing judgment. I was reading this book recently. I'm trying to remember, it's like, or maybe I saw it on the web or somewhere, where I saw this. Actually, no, it was the ABCs of self-love. I don't quite remember the author because I actually just stumbled on it. And there was a illustration in the book that talked about that. There was this mirror and talked about, if you look at yourself in the mirror and you feel uncomfortable with the image that's looking back at you, and that can be, when we talk about image, that can be maybe the way you're dressed, or maybe the way you feel about yourself, and how you, the thoughts that are going through your head, if you're looking and that reflection is looking back at you and you don't feel comfortable, you don't feel confident, then you have to do that internal work to figure out, okay, what about my image that's
Mm-hmm.
affecting me, that I'm not totally comfortable with. And this is not image. Again, when we look at our, especially women, we look at our bodies and we go through changes, and then we look at ourselves in the mirror and we're comparing it to these standards and expectations. No, we're not doing that. When you look at yourself in the mirror, everything about you from your crown to your toe, you assess based on how you would like yourself. How do you want to feel? How do you want to look? And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's where it starts for first, in terms of, yeah, what do I want my image to say?
Yeah.
How do I want to feel in it? And then of course you start looking at, okay, how do I want to express myself? Do I want to be, do I want to be that person who's expressing the fun loving side of me? I mean, for me, when I wear colors, it reminds me of Carnival. If you
Mm-hmm.
follow Carnival in the Caribbean, it's a celebration of emancipation, and there's lots of feathers and beads and colors, right? It's festive. And so
Mm-hmm.
when I wear colors, it helps me to bring out that joyful side of myself, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you may say, okay, I'm an introvert, and so I want to walk into a room and not have to do all that heavy lifting,
Yeah.
have my clothing and my image do
Mm-hmm.
that, a bit of lifting for me. And it's like, I'm going to try and wear interesting pieces that, create conversations and put me at ease. So it starts with you, like really
Mm-hmm.
identifying what is it you want to say about yourself, and doing the little work that you need to, the things that you need to, deciding for yourself the things that you need to do to get yourself there. No, sometimes we try to do this on our own. We try to figure out, okay, yes, I'm going to go to the store, I'm going to buy a whole new wardrobe, and then you get home and you try on some of the things, you're like, oh yeah, this is not me, right? So this is
Yeah.
why someone like me is important to helping you with your personal development, helping you
Yeah.
with that journey, because we will help you to go through like the journey. What do you actually want to feel and be and show up, and what do you want to wear? So when you do get to that space where you're buying the clothing, everything that's in your closet feels like you and allow you to show up as the best version of yourself.
Yes, and then you don't have the closet full of clothes and think you have nothing to wear. You don't have all this
Exactly.
clutter in the closet. And the other thing that came to me when you were talking is when we do this inner work and when we show up the way we want to show up, I think we're also the effect, and more people are doing this. The effect is also we're policing other people less, because I'm thinking sometimes
Yes.
this policing comes from a place of, oh, if I can't show up the way I want, how dare she does it, or
Yes.
this other person does it, however they identify themselves. So
Absolutely.
I do think this is such a bigger topic, and I could talk with you forever, literally. But so let's quickly talk a little bit. Where can people find you? You said already you're a lot on LinkedIn. Is that where you would want them to
Yes.
go,
So
or?
on social media, my platform of choice is LinkedIn, and
Uh huh.
I'm super proud of myself, of the work that I've done on LinkedIn, to really develop my thought leadership when it comes to image and talking about, how women can be more authentic and show up for themselves. I even, was in the LinkedIn content creator program. So like, yay, me.
Yay!
So you can find me on LinkedIn at my LinkedIn handle, of course, would be like Solita C Roberts. That's SOLITACROBRTS. You can also find me on my website if you're trying to understand some of the work that I do and how to really connect with me. It's styletoimpact.com. And of course, if you're listening to this and you're like, okay, I'm ready to take action, I'm feeling that, I'm in that space where I need to start working on my personal style and making sure that the image that I'm projecting is authentically me, and you want to connect with me directly, you can do so at Solita at styletoimpact.com. And I will be happy to work with you and go through some of your challenges, and of course work with you on your goals.
Yeah, and I hope people go check out your website because it's very bright, and it reminds me also of Carnival now that you said that.
Yeah,
It's
it's a
actually,
reflection of me. Like
yes,
everything that I do and wherever you see me,
yeah,
you're going to see portions and reflections of me.
yeah,
And when we think about your personal brand, that's what it is. Your
yeah,
personal brand should be you. There's no separation between, oh, I have to have a personal brand for my personal, and I have to have a personal brand for my professional.
no.
Like you are one person, and you should show up as one person in every space that you're in. So thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. Exactly who I am as a person is also being reflected on my brand when it comes to my company as well. So thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Well, this is an awesome point to end, but I'm a little sad, so I will probably ask you to come back because there's so much more we could
Yeah.
explore, but to be mindful and not make this a never
Yeah, I
ending
know.
episode. Let's end here. Thanks so much, Solita, for your time, for your wisdom, and I look forward to have you back.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me, Connie. And definitely, I would love to come back and continue this conversation. I appreciate it.